Wow, those are numbers on the screen, aren't they? You know, it's kinda crazy how long I've been focused with Archie Sonic, that I've neglected to even talk about what's been happening with Sonic recently. In just the previous year, we've gotten a sequel to an admittedly lackluster film, a new animated series that was talked about for 2 weeks, a new compilation of classic Sonic games with absolutely no issues whatsoever, and whatever the hell this is. The Sonic sweep is truly something, and I guess I'm not really feeling it at all. However, while these mediums may not be my cup of tea, there is something I've neglected to mention. My signature bread and butter at this point: comic books. While Archie may be long and gone at this point, there's a new publisher around producing what some may say is the best piece of Sonic content for the past 5 years. IDW Comics' Sonic the Hedgehog is the new hit comic at the time of me making this video, bringing Sonic and a whole new cast of characters and a familiar world with brand new locations. It seems like this is the fresh breath of air we've been waiting for, right? Unfortunately, the IDW Sonic series has a myriad of problems that hold it back from being a good comic series, to the point where it could be considered the worst out of the Hedgehog's comic book catalog. And one such issue is none other than the characterization of the cast, most notably Sonic. While he may seem heroic on the surface, the methods he uses to achieve his fight for freedom should really be put under public scrutiny. So join me yet again on another journey through the Sonic comic universe, as we look at the characterization of IDW Sonic and why he's the worst interpretation of Sonic of all time. Issues 5 and 6 of IDW Sonic comic gives us the fate of Dr. Eggman. On the surface, this is a pretty interesting story, in which the famed villain is found at a local village with a severe case of memory loss. Sonic and the Chaotix are admittedly hesitant over the whole thing, and believe that this is a ruse from Dr. Eggman. But after seeing him cower in fear after his own creations, the crew come to the conclusion that Mr. Tinkerer might not be that bad after all. Until...
Now, find a new rival.
Shadow the Hedgehog, along with Rouge the Bat, show up to take Mr. Tinkerer out. While Sonic is opposed to doing that, nothing's stopping Shadow, which leads to a chase through the woods.
Have you forgotten that he made you suffer? That he's tried to destroy you multiple times? How can you even suggest leniency for him after that?
You tried to destroy me in the past too, remember? You even tried to obliterate an entire planet. So what? You want me to take you out with Eggman? After all, if he can't be forgiven, can you?
Now, on the surface, it seems that Sonic poses an interesting moral dilemma. Should you really punish someone who has no knowledge of the horrors they did in the past? But the problem lies in how he explains this. By using Shadow as a comparison, there are some serious flaws with his argument, the obvious being that Shadow was manipulated in the past with the events Sonic mentions with SA2 in Shadow the Hedgehog. Attempting to equate Shadow's situation with Eggman, a guy that has a clear history of being a danger to the world, is extremely manipulative. Especially with that last line. The lack of context that Sonic accentuates is just messed up. And the worst part is that Sonic doesn't get any flack for this initially, and it's portrayed as the right decision. Something that you'll kinda see is sort of a trend with this Sonic. There does exist a scene in which Espio criticizes Sonic for letting Mr. Tinkerer go, saying that if they had just contained him, the Metal Virus event would have never happened. Sonic retorts with just this. It's almost as if Sonic just wants to sweep the fact that the individual in question that they're assuming the worst is Eggman, an irredeemable character who's hell-bent on their destruction. But no! I guess that's just not rational of the Chaotix to be cautious of someone who has a troublesome record. Freedom. If there's one thing synonymous with all flavors of Sonic comic, it's none other than Sonic's fight for freedom. But IDW Sonic's fight seems to be such an oddly shaped upward battle, with attempting to force change on characters established to default back to the industry standard with no sort of growth or change whatsoever, or act like an utter hypocrite by not abiding by what he preaches to his foes. One of the strangest things IDW Sonic pushes with Metal and Eggman specifically is this notion that they'll change and stop being evil, often repeating and even belittling them for not turning good. It's especially strange with Metal, as the book establishes from the very beginning in issue 7 that Metal Sonic can't rebel against his creator due to his programming. Yet Sonic acts like Metal Sonic can make the right decision, and essentially give Metal Sonic the freedom to do as he pleases in theory, but really boils down to be a good guy, which are not the same thing. This ideology becomes a fatal flaw, as after Sonic has Tails repair and de-weaponize him after the battle for Angel Island arc, he goes straight to Eggman, subsequently kicking off the Metal Virus saga. Notice how Sonic is initially in favor of letting him do his own thing, yet he treads back on this decision and scolds Metal for essentially letting him do what he wanted to do later down the line in the Metal Virus saga. Even Eggman reiterates that Metal Sonic lacks any sort of free will. It's as if Sonic's definition of freedom is warped into this morality of forcing his ideals of everyone should just be a good guy just like him. This is also applied to Eggman too. Ever since his encounter with Mr. Tinker, Sonic attempts to push Eggman into becoming a good person. While there may be a possibility that Mr. Tinker is somewhere in there, Eggman chooses to be evil, and yet Sonic still insists that Eggman change for the sake of it being the right thing. But wouldn't that conflict with the idea of respecting people's choices and freedom that Sonic pushes?
Don't you feel stupid? Don't you feel a little ashamed?
Time and time again, Sonic insists on not giving up or doing the right thing, while fitting this under his umbrella of freedom. But in actuality, this entire philosophy that Sonic stands by is riddled with contradictions and controversial tactics that make this fundamentally flawed. And one character would step into the ring to finally put Sonic in his place and challenge his ideals once and for all. Dr. Starline's newest cybernetic tag team duo, Surge and Kit, are here to take down Sonic and friends once and for all. After learning about their checkered past and the lives they no longer had, Surge and Kit plan to bring both sides down. No more good guys, no more bad guys. This all culminates in the big battle between the imposters and Sonic and Tails. We'll be shifting our glances toward the fight between Sonic and Surge, as there is some interesting dialogue between the two that almost feels like a meta commentary on the issues of IDW Sonic as a character.
If you just had taken them out, I wouldn't have been made!
Or, if that goes against your precious moral code, you could have just rolled over and quit. But no. You keep on fighting, you keep on giving the idiots the freedom to repeat their awful mistakes. And it keeps going and going and going. And the whole world loves you.
Nigga, what?
This scene is pretty interesting, as for the first time in the series run, Sonic is finally criticized for his actions. If he had just taken the advice and precautions from everyone around him, the world wouldn't be the way it is. A character that challenges Sonic on a logical plane? Genius! After a battle between the two,
Man, shut your bitch ass up. Nigga, nobody asked you how to bitch ass thing. Shut the fuck up before I knock your fucking head off your shoulders, little ass bitch.
Sonic hits Surge with his outlook, which I ain't reading all that. Basically, to give you the rundown, he gives Surge a second chance as he wants everyone to experience the freedoms he does too. Yeah, it's written like crap, but it basically boils down to this. He even expands on it and says that he won't allow her to take away the freedom of others. This does pose a bit of a balancing act that Sonic has to deal with, letting people enjoy their freedoms to a certain extent, which I think is a pretty interesting predicament that Sonic has himself stuck in. And with Surge, she has some really interesting potential making Sonic understand the flaws in his ideas of freedom and the mindset he pursues with, how it's affected characters in the past, and the ramifications it has now. But too bad this kinda goes nowhere with the remainder of the series. Sonic kinda just defaults back into forcing characters to change because it's the right thing, and even the aspect of a rival possessing a challenge to the main character is completely thrown out the window. Surge really sucks within the remainder of the run, constantly losing left and right, and that message of going against Sonic's morals kinda just fades away in the background, which is hella disappointing. I really love her design, easily top 5 in the book. Hashtag Surge Gang, where y'all at? But a good design can only go so far when it's difficult to be invested in her. All of her build-up from the start just seems wasted at the end. Wait, hold up, she gets schizophrenia later on? She's just like me for real! The climax of it all really fails to shake things up with this rivalry, as issue 56 just ends up feeling more of the same. Sonic falls on old habits of telling the character to be good for the sake of it, not on their own volition, not from Sonic's influence, only because he just says so, which in itself makes no sense. Sonic never talked down to his rivals in a condescending manner for them to change. It was always through his influence and his actions that inspired them to change for the better. All of that potential for a character to really shake up Sonic's viewpoint is gone for the sake of going back to the status quo. Time and time again, limiting the growth of the character to just undergo the same song and dance yet again. Praising a Sonic who does the right thing the wrong way, and ultimately treating Surge as another punching bag to the roster. The characterization of a lot of the cast present in IDW is pretty atrocious, but Sonic is definitely near the top of the list. Whether it be through manipulating the truth, his lack of holding himself for the actions that lead to mass hysteria, or just blatant hypocrisy, IDW Sonic is a character that baffles me every single time. A hero who abides by a flawed moral code built on the false promises of freedom, and unfortunately, the lack of a change in the status quo results in the character repeating his cycle again and again. Sonic will never truly understand the consequences of his actions. IDW Sonic just isn't Sonic. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I've officially covered all things Sonic comic related. While this was on the negative side, I still hope you all enjoyed this analysis and critique of the character. I have to give a big shout out to the people who actually helped voice act the panels shown in the video. Without them, what the hell do you think I was gonna do? Voice act all this? Unfortunately, I ain't making enough money off this video, so you guys will all be paid with 2 wacky bucks and a half-eaten Lunchable. You've probably seen some of these guys from previous videos too, so check them out. Their socials be in the description below. If you also look down in the description too, you'll see that all the music used in the video was by Genesis Keys. This isn't some sort of sponsor, but I think his music is really cool, so check out his channel. If you listen here and there throughout my recent uploads, I've snuck some of his bangers in my vids. Anyways, thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, press stuff on the screen to see more stuff happen. Check out my Discord server where you can chat with me and many more alike. We also run events and watch movies too, and people get the chance to watch videos like this one early. No paid membership, nothing. But if you're afraid to click on blue text in a YouTube description, you can also click on a different one that sends you to my second channel, where I literally upload the same videos but early, along with some original content. Also, I post art on the community tab too. See you all in the next Stricer video.